day after, later this week, even on Thursday, and put answers to these questions up on the website. So if we don't get all of the questions answered, as you'll see, there are a lot of questions. And so if we don't get to each and every question, there will be an opportunity to see more answers and more input into these questions on the King of Kings website after Thursday. Okay. We will end by 8:30. Each panel will have a few minutes to answer each question. And at the very end of this session, before 8:30, we will have some time to ask some follow-up questions, okay? So since we want to pay attention to time, we'll ask the panelists to move up to the front, and we'll begin the process of asking those questions. And I'll hand this over to Martine, who will facilitate that as well. Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
Is this working?
Great, thanks, Martine.
Can the folks in the front here, not through the mic?
Not really. That mic seems to work.
This one seems better.
Yes.
Yeah, this one you can't hear me at all.
Those are good.
It's doing something.
That's clear.
It's okay. Hey, Brenna, can you bring the signs, the table signs up here? Thanks.
Let's move down so that we're not.
So I think there might be some questions that you can answer, but you don't have to come up to the front for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenna. Yes.
Stage light up here.
Yeah.
Let's bring it. Okay.
So Martine, over there.
Okay, so I've done the best that I can to compile the questions or comments within themes. And so we're going to start with a theme around safety, because that seemed like the theme that has the most question or comment. Okay? So we are starting with this question with the assumption or the premise that police will not monitor the parking lot. There are also many questions about whether or not sheriffs or police would be there to monitor in some way. So the question is, what measures will be taken to ensure safety, like cameras, fences, security guards, emergency phone numbers, etc.? And so I think maybe King of Kings can respond to that. Yeah?
There's a lot in that statement or question, and a lot of things are very important. When we looked at the application to apply to the county, there were a number of criteria that we had to meet. And so we've given each one a fair amount of thought. In terms of safety issues, do we allow open fires? Do we allow a burn barrel so people can keep warm? No, that's not going to happen. Do we provide sanitation needs? The porta potty, essentially, to be on site, yes. Refuse disposal, yes. So there are some issues that are absolutely mandatory to be met.
So Jean,
Yes?
that does actually address some of the questions, and
Yes.
this in particular is about safety. So cameras, security guards, fences, what are some of the measures potentially, or could be?
This is a first-time program in the county, and the Clackamas County Sheriff's Department is taking a very low profile posture.
They will not monitor the situation or put.
They've been asked.
They will not do it already.
Good chance for a follow-up question.
Thank you. Thanks for your question. We've asked them to, if they can provide occasional patrol, to see how things are, and that's not on their radar, but they will respond to any emergency, whether it's serious threat to property, other people's health, that they'll respond on a 911 basis. If it's somebody that looks like they're unwanted in the neighborhood, I don't think that's going to be a priority to them.
Maybe a follow-up question to Mike's time. A follow-up
I
question.
should say it out loud.
At the very end, we can follow up
But
questions.
why are we listening to non-truths already?
So actually, what we would like to do is hold on to that, hold on to your concern, your question, and save it for the last half hour.
He didn't say his name or who he was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah. This sign, if you can't see that, it's kind of small. King of Kings Lutheran Church. My name is Gene Zahari. I'm a member there and on the Safe Overnight Shelter Committee that is kind of working this process through.
And why don't we just go down the line to do it?
Sure.
Mary Zell Harry, King of Kings.
My name is Michaela Smith, and I'm with the Providence Better Outcomes Through Bridges program.
I'm Vahid Brown. I'm the Housing Policy Coordinator for Health, Housing, and Human Services at Clackamas County.
My name is Valerie Chapman, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Oak Grove Community Council, which is the CPO in this area in which you are right now, all the way including the area where King of Kings Church is, down to Jennings Lodge, and over to the boundary of Milwaukee.
CPO means? CPO means?
A CPO, it's the County Planning Organization. If you are in an unincorporated part of Oregon, we have county planning organizations. They're kind of similar to neighborhood associations, but it helps with county planning, and so it's a CPO.
My name is Dan Johnson. I'm the Director of Clackamas County's Department of Transportation and Development.
Back to King of Kings.
So the question around security measures and whether or not police will be there, one thing that you did say is that if there is an emergency situation or that someone's property is, something is damage to one's property or something like that, that the police can and will respond, but that the police would not be there to monitor the parking lot. Yeah, okay. So around safety, one question is how is the SOS program or the King of Kings, SOS King of King parking safer than public camping allowed by Martin versus City of Boise? Okay. SOS means Safe Overnight Shelter Program.
Thank you. So Martin v. Boise is a decision of the Ninth Circuit Court that we are in that district where people experiencing homelessness in the city of Boise sued the city of Boise for a violation of the Eighth Amendment protection against cruel and unusual punishment on the grounds that the city did not have adequate shelter for everyone experiencing homelessness. So the criminalization of their homelessness, of their sleep, was cruel and unusual because they had to sleep, they couldn't avoid, it was an unavoidable human activity. The Ninth Circuit found that was a valid case. It ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, the people experiencing homelessness, against the city of Boise. So there is case law now in our district of this Ninth Circuit that says the criminalization of homelessness in a community that does not have adequate shelter or facilities to provide places for people to sleep is a violation of the constitutional prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. That doesn't mean that Martin v. Boise means that camping by people experiencing homelessness is legal. It means that in any community in the Ninth Circuit that criminalized homelessness, like if we were to, in Clackamas County, the sheriff would go and arrest people or give them citations for criminal behavior just for sleeping, then that could be challenged under this is all sort of wonky, I'm sorry, challenged under Martin v. Boise, and it might be held unconstitutional, and that law by which Clackamas County sheriffs, for example, issued a citation could be thrown out and found unconstitutional. That's all that means. It doesn't legalize camping or anything like that. So Safe overnight shelter in this instance is a permit that was created by the planning department for church or nonprofit property owners to apply for a temporary use on a limited basis with H3S, or Health, Housing, and Human Services review of their application, to allow up to 3 vehicles stay overnight, and the folks could sleep in their vehicles overnight on the property. That's what SOS is. It's the permit created by the planning department. I'm pointing to Dan Johnson because he's the director of that department. I'm with Health, Housing, and Human Services, so an application like that posed by King of Kings would be reviewed by us from the human services perspective. Like, what does this program accommodate in terms of access to bathrooms and sanitation, et cetera. So we would want to know that a church that was wanting to do something like this had the wherewithal to do it and had a plan. So that's our role.
Are your parking lots open at night where you work for homelessness?
So as you see, there are so many questions up here, and we want to honor the questions that have been written, and then we will open it up as we have time to do that. So along these lines of thank you for explaining the SOS program and what Health, Housing, and Human Services role is, and a little bit of the history of the Martin v. Boise States. Yes, and then also the role of transportation and development. And so along those lines, there are questions around, which are connected to safety, but it's around monitoring so it's around monitoring and support for the folks who are camping. So I think it might be helpful to explain a little bit more. Maybe Michaela, if you can also talk about your role, and then I can specifically ask the questions that are around that. But first, to kind of set the ground for why you're up here and what your role would look like.
Thanks. So, better outcomes through bridges. Should this program come to fruition, we are committed to providing case management services for the program's participants. We pride ourselves in smaller caseloads, which means that we would be able to work very closely with the program participants towards goals of employment, improved health access, addressing housing barriers, getting into housing, whatever goals they may have. We would be able to provide case management, as I said, and sort of walk with them through whatever processes they may need to move into permanent housing.
Thank you. So that does answer one of the questions, which is around what is the transition plan, or what's the role around transitioning folks from this program. And so connected to safety and also monitoring, one of the questions is, what are the rules, and how do the rules get enforced?
Thanks for the question. King of Kings SOS team has come up with 12 different rules that our guests would sign off on. They agree to follow these rules. The first rule is, I understand that permission to stay at King of Kings may be revoked if I don't comply with the rules. Rules include things like, I'll be a good neighbor, I won't make loud noises, I'll keep the site clean, I won't consume alcohol. I realize that I may be accountable for the actions of my guests. At this point, our guests, the people who stay, could have a visitor at this point. That may change. So if someone had a guest, let's say their brother wanted to come and see them, and the brother didn't leave at 8:30 when they were supposed to, then that could be grounds for having that person leave. Now, we are dealing with human beings, and these human beings are fragile. So I would say that the first time that somebody didn't have their guests leave right at 8:30, that they would not be asked to leave, okay? So, okay, who is monitoring? Okay. The King of Kings will have a person who is on call, and if a guest has a problem with something, they can call that number. If a neighbor has a problem, they can call the number, and the King of King person will come over.
Why should we be the ones calling them?
You
I'm sorry, I'm just angry.
Sure, it makes sense.
I hear that.
Makes sense, yeah.
They're not answering the question. I'm sorry.
No, not really.
No, we're not answering.
You're not answering.
Okay, the question is, I am not going to be there, or the mentor, the person with the phone, is not going to be there and watch. That isn't the way this is set up. We are not prison guards watching over people. We trust that the people that we have vetted, who have gone through background checks, are wanting a place to sleep safely, and that they will follow the rules as we've set them up. If they don't do that, they will not stay there. But
How far do you live from the church?
Take them home to your house and have them live in your house.
So I'm going to ask, I hear the anger, and I also hear folks saying that you really want them to answer. And so that to me says that there are some parts of the answer that you didn't quite, there's some parts of the question that you had that didn't quite get answered. So if you can, please take a note of that part, right? So just like what Mary did when she heard you say you didn't answer it, and then she clarified some more, okay? So we want to give an opportunity for that, but look around the room and see how many people are in the room and how many questions are here. So we want to be able to manage all of that. So this brings it up to the question about screening and applicants, yes? And I'm noticing that Lauren is not up here in the front, but would that be you, Vahid? Okay, so can you talk about what is the screening process? And one particular question around that is, can we see the list of questions for candidates, or how exactly are they chosen or approved?
So there's two parts to that. There's the county's role, and then there's King of Kings' role. So I'll answer for the county and then kind of point towards what I understand from the King of Kings' role, having reviewed their application. The Health, Housing, and Human Services, we call it H3S because that's such a mouthful, has coordinated housing access. So it's a coordinated entry system for people experiencing homelessness or having a housing crisis who need some help or support. They call that number, and all their various programs that we administer, whether it's programs that help people get out of homelessness or that help prevent people falling into homelessness because maybe they can't afford to pay the rent this month and they need a little bit of help. We have a variety of programs. All of those programs are screened through one phone number, the Coordinated Housing Access Line. And Lauren was at the table at the front with the cards, and we have information about that phone number if you want more information about CHA or Coordinated Housing Access. So the programs all get sort of entered into that system, and when someone calls, they are screened. So what's going on? How old are you? Do you have a disability? What's the situation? Oh, you're homeless. Oh, you need this kind of assistance, and that you have this kind of barrier or circumstance in your life. So given all of the information, you are eligible for this program or this program in our system. King of Kings, if they were to be approved to have this program, that program would be entered into that CHA system. So if someone called and they met all the eligibility criteria for being a part of the King of Kings overnight car parking, SOS, we would say, oh, this is an eligible person for King's SOS program, and then that eligible person would be referred to King of Kings, and King of Kings would do their own screening process, which, as I understand it from their application, is first of all a background check, a criminal background check, and then an in-person interview. But I will let you guys answer about the second part.
Excuse me, could they just answer the question instead of giving us all
So,
these?
I'm sorry, what,
You didn't tell us what we asked what were the questions you were going to use to monitor.
so the questions we ask are very generic at the county about, okay, what is your issue? What is the problem? What is the what's missing? You don't have housing, or you can't afford your rent, or you have an energy bill you can't pay? So we ask questions about what's going on with the person. And then when we've determined, okay, you're homeless and you need help to leave your homelessness, well, which programs that we administer or provide money to might you be eligible for? Well, some are programs for people with disabilities. Some are
I
programs for people...
understand what you're saying, but it's still not answering the question. The question is for those who are going to be in that parking lot, what questions do you ask them? I don't understand why you're giving me the runaround.
So it's not runaround. The answer here is that it's general questions, and then it goes to a step 2. So I think you want to
What
hear
are
the
the
step.
general questions?
So that's
Then basically that's what he needed to say.
So
we
that's
don't
where we're
have
going
a
to
lot
pass
of
it on
time.
to the next person, so thank you.
general-
So we realize that this is a complex issue, and there are complex, and I realize some people are saying there are a lot of lengthy answers, and just the number of questions you have indicates that it's complex. And so we're going to give you a chance, Jean, or Mary, to respond to the specific questions.
Okay, so once a person learns about the SOS program and agrees that that's something they might be interested in, they give their name and number to the person at Shaw, and Shaw calls King of Kings, who has an opening. And so then we have an interview committee, 3 people, including Michaela, will invite the person to come in and visit and go over the rules and have a conversation to see how they fit. And if it seems like they would be comfortable at King of Kings, and everything is fine for the rules, then they would be given a background check. And the background check is for a conviction of sex,
Any kind of sexual
crime or violence.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is that it? There's only 2 questions?
One second,
Nobody wants to
please.
answer the question.
I know.
So folks are really interested about what specific questions are going to be asked during the interview, and so it could be that you guys don't have a list of questions yet. Okay, and so that could be something that if King of Kings is open to that dialogue, are you open to folks sharing some questions that they might want you to ask in an interview? Okay, so if you have particular questions that you'd want to be asked in an interview, please take a note of that, and King of Kings is open to hearing. The part of this question about the screening and applicants is also, is it only the approved folks that can stay overnight, or can others stay overnight? Okay.
Only approved people can stay overnight. Okay, and those people who are invited to stay overnight will have a decal that they can put on their cars so that anybody can see that this person has permission to stay in our parking lot overnight. Now, if they have a visitor, the visitor can be there at this point from 6:30 to 8:30, and then they will need to leave.
6 to 8:30.
Okay, 6 to 8:30, and then they will be asked, then they will need to leave. And the guests will understand this, and if it doesn't work, then no guests.
And so part of the question earlier that's kind of coming up right now is just thought or question around enforceability. And so one of the things that you said is that if it becomes an issue where guests are staying longer than they're supposed to, or breaking of one rule or another, then they would be asked to leave the program. Or are there other things about enforcing the rules or addressing those concerns? Did I catch that right? Is that what would happen?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so there are some of the, I'm trying to do it based on memory, but let me look at this card.
Can I
Yep.
add something to the answer?
Sure. I wish we had 2 mics.
No,
Just to kind of add to the question about what we would ask of the county, This permit application isn't even in process at the moment. It's been put on pause. But if it were to be put forward and the county land use folks were to say we're approving this temporary use, then it would have to be created as a program in our coordinated housing access system, and we would have to work out what are the eligibility criteria. At this point, it isn't even a permit in process, so we don't have a program in our system.
Very good. Very good.
I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
And then once.
Hang on 1 second. You had a question. It is June 30th, pardon me. It is paused until June 30th. Right now, at the current.
According to the paper that I have, it says 20th.
That's a mistake.
You gave it to me.
I made a mistake.
Okay. Let me answer the question. You want to answer the question? Here's the answer to the question. This is the letter I want to King of Kings. It basically says, the 120-day review period will start again on June 30th. There will be no decision issued before June 30th of this year whatsoever. So we have up until June 30th to provide any comments you'd like to our office to be included in that review.
Yeah, and then my understanding is that what King of Kings would like is to have no more than 2 or 3 people in a vehicle, right? So that if someone were to call Cha, that would be one of the eligibility criteria. How many people are in your household? Oh, there are 4. Oh, you're not eligible for this program, right? So that's we would build it once that permit were issued.
That was all I just wanted to add.
Vans coming in, buses with the.
Okay, so Jean, I think you started answering some of this, and I stopped you. So, but this is around. The property. So the King of Kings Church and property. Who will ensure waste or needles will be disposed of properly, or will.
Nice question.
I'm just reading. I don't want to. I'm reading what the question says. And then who will clean up after the campers and make sure that that the grounds are kept and things of that nature. How would that look?
Sure. Thank you. Like most churches, there are committees. And one of the committees at King of Kings is the property committee. And there are people that work out with the committee members for a number of reasons. And so monitoring the parking lot and looking at the grounds is something that's done with regularity. And if that evidence of people misbehaving or using drugs, leaving liquor bottles on the ground, it's not going to take long for that to be discovered and the issue addressed.
Can you say a little bit more about how? Yeah.
Okay, so one of the rules is you will pick up after yourself. I come to King of Kings on Tuesday morning for sewing. If I came and saw that there was garbage left around, then I would visit with the people, our guests that evening, and say, if you want to stay here, this is not going to continue. Okay, we expect our guests to keep the church parking lot as nice as it is right now, every day. There will be place for garbage, there will be a bathroom, it's going to be clean. And if it's not, our guests will find another place to sleep.
So how often will the porta potties be empty? Because porta potties stink and carry lots of.
Okay, it depends on, our initial idea.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, how often will the porta potties be changed? Our initial thought is every 2 weeks, but if that appears,
Holy moly.
if it appears not, okay, we're talking about 3 people, 3 vehicles.
And anybody walking by.
Yeah. So you want the answer, maybe you might not like the answer, but let's allow for them to answer, and then your feedback is important. This is why we're all here. So please let them respond to the questions, and then if we have time for follow-up, we will have follow-up. So thank you, Mary, for responding. I've already seen and heard moments where neighbors have come and talked to King of Kings church members and given some feedback, and how that feedback has helped them make better planning. So if you have some feedback, that's why